We are live. Spoilers in this video. Final hour thoughts, film, and in Danish, Sidste. Yes, this video contains spoilers, and it's a long video, but there are time codes for the different sections in the description box. Now, let's see. My own quote-unquote film critic rating for this is an 8 out of 10. And my personal rating is a 9 out of 10. I really, really love this movie. Now, for those who do not speak Danish, for the 98% of the world's population that do not speak Danish, in Danish, the title has a double meaning that the English title does not capture. In Danish, the term final hour can be read as both your final hour, meaning when someone dies, and as I'm just going to use all the different, I don't know which of these is the correct one. Final period, last period, sixth period, final lesson, last class. I haven't been able to confirm what the right term would be. Anyway, the last class someone has to attend before being done with school that day. So for these students, the last class of the day may be their final hour, or technically after last class. And the teacher was also killed after last class. So yeah. Now, we are diving headfirst into notes taken while watching. Now, the movie is 1 hour and 17 minutes if you include the end credits. Now, I have to say, I enjoyed listening to the theme tune when I listened to it online yesterday. But I now love it again after hearing it both at the start and end of the film. I really love how it bookends the film, and how just, yeah, it really. I mean, I've written down some more about the theme song specifically. I think it's in the next section, but just it's absolutely perfect for the movie, and yeah. I like that the opening title is the final hour font, which the viewer realizes in the first scene. We, immediately we see the final hour, the intro, and we see that, yeah. Now, the very, very end of the opening credits zooms in on the skeleton, and it closes its mouth, the lower jaw clenching shut. I quite like that. I mean, I guess I guess maybe they put like a wire there and just yanked it, or maybe they filmed it with the mouth open, and then someone went in and just shut it, and they like edited out the visual of the guy shutting it, and just, and made kind of, it's effective. It's very nice. I like it all. And I'm sorry, I think his name is Mickey, but I might sometimes call him Nicky. You know, he is so deliciously slimy and self-obsessed right from just immediately. I love, and literally, unless I'm terribly mistaken, the very first thing we see of him is the show intro. So you see that, he turns to face the camera, he smiles and does the little wink, just, and I love that he does the wink right, they're at the very end when for now I'm calling her the redhead. When the very last of the students, that, right before she dies, she's told, this girl, she was dead, and she's like, no, and he's like, yes, and does a little wink, just absolutely loves it. I'm not 100%. I haven't decided for sure if I'm gonna be using the Danish names that, like, I don't know if this is dubbed for other countries. I don't know if this particularly played outside of Denmark, but if, I guess, I don't know, maybe I'll go back and forth. That sounds like the way I'm gonna do this kind of thing. Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I am really on today. I don't know why. I I really love this movie. Maybe that's why. I forgot how amazing this movie is. Now, Mm, I'll give you so much flesh you'll wish you were a vegetarian. What does that even mean, dude? I know what you were going for. I don't think you got there. I don't know if that's like, I mean, occasionally, I love almost everything that I've read by Dennis Jurgensen, but occasionally he does, like, that's a, so much flesh. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if it's supposed to be that Mickey is like a little flabbergasted and a little upset at getting chewed out, and so the first thing he comes up with doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know. Now, and I realized this note should have gone before that, but anyway, the talk about how they're gonna get dead bodies for the TV show in that opening scene is really nasty. Like they, oh yeah, look, I'm filming this thing, and it's, let's see, one of them was like highway or something where like people are always getting run over, and then there was that building where like people who are suicidal, they use that building to jump off of, and I want to say he's played by Tom McEwan, the guy chewing Mickey out, and I'm almost certain I've seen him be great elsewhere as well. But he's so good in this. For like, I don't know, is he on screen? Does he have maybe 1 minute of screen time? So he's very memorable. But yeah, he's like you call that being ready for tonight, and Mickey's like, well, I can't very well go up there and push them off the building. It just wow, really, really gross. Yeah, I, and that really, before we see the students and before we're told that anybody has died, we see Mickey and we see that he, and we're told about this show, highest rated, which little um, mass media criticism there, little satire, that the show that gets the best ratings is the one that shows dead bodies very soon after they're dead. It's the first. They're the first. The place the yeah, they get to the dead body before anybody else does. So and yeah, it legitimately, like, there's no kind of, it's not because Mickey has some sort of idea that this will really help people that they need to see. No, no, he's like, people are gonna die here, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna cover it. That's the job. That's, don't worry, boss. We're gonna be fine. Someone's gonna die. I'm gonna cover it. We're gonna get great ratings. You know, before the because that is, I mean, I guess you can interpret it in multiple ways ultimately, but I would say it is a very reasonable interpretation that Mickey is causing this death. His kind of callousness, his hunger for bloody flesh, as his boss puts it, that's what creates this kind of, so before you see even a single dead body, you have the you know yeah, he we're told that this is going to be, and that's even, before we know it refers to anything else at all. We know that the title of the movie refers to the show covering dead bodies, which means that this is literally, it's what the movie's about. It's what this story is about. The this obsession with the moment, really hoping someone dies in a really gruesome way so that they can get ratings out of it, and that, he wants it so badly that it becomes reality, that people start dying. It's the sort of thing, the idea that if some if there is a strong enough will to cause something, then it will happen. This is essentially the idea behind, for example, the idea of psychic powers. You know, you want so badly for, you know, someone to say something or do something that you specifically want them to do, that the idea of just you can actually do it. You know, I personally don't believe in psychics and such, but just that's the idea that's at play here. That if some, yeah, I think I've explained it. Let's see. And I do quite like, I don't know how to translate this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and, you know, people who don't speak Danish, you're gonna have to bear with me. That this might happen more than once in this video. Vi skal til at på æteren, og så sidder du der og rafler. That's funny. That's a funny line. That, you know, for if yeah, that's the boss who says that to Mickey. That's really fun. I'm sorry, I don't remember what that's called in well, let's see. I mean, it's basically like, you know what? Yeah, I'll change it to, we're going on air in, you know, I don't remember, 30 minutes, and you're playing Yahtzee, you know, so, something like that. You know, he's sitting there obsessing over this dice, and yeah. And the movie does a really great job of establishing all the high school students in a very short space of time. It's like everyone gets at least one line, and just immediately you know who that character is, and like maybe if they immediately talk to another character, you realize the relationship between those two characters. You know, I can't remember all of them, but you know, that one kid immediately walks up to, actually, is it? Yeah, I think, yeah, I guess both Iris. Yeah, I'm just gonna go Nicoline. Both Iris and Nicoline get hit on by the. You know, both of them have one guy who wants to date them, and yeah, I think that's pretty much. And then Inga immediately, you know, when Iris is hit on, she's like, get away from here, you know, and you know, she's very protective, and protective of Iris specifically. And you know, the first thing Kenneth does is run up behind Augusta. Augusta, I'm just gonna go with the Danish pronunciation, and like yell, "Boo!" You know, and it's, you know, she doesn't give it like a huge jump or jolt, but she, you know, that's the, yeah, and yeah, I guess that pretty much covers every, yeah. Just under 6 minutes in, and the high school students are locked into the classroom, biology classroom, and you know, the scares begin. This is not the kind of movie that should be wasting any time getting there. You know, there are a lot of amazing horror movies that take their time, but this really isn't that kind of movie. And I really appreciate that they realized that this is, you really wanna dive right in. It also, I mean, it's also, like I already said, it's a very short movie, and it's not really the kind of thing that, I guess, if the already kind of weird mystery kind of stuff, if it got like a little bigger and a little weirder, then it would be fine for the movie to run a bit longer and to maybe spend more time building up. But as it is, it's very smart to kind of just jump right in. You know, some people say that it's a very Twilight Zone kind of idea, and yeah, kind of. You know, I mean, this could be. It is possible that there is a Twilight or Outer Limits episode that's really similar to this, and really, I mean, I guess, you know, not quite as many people would die, since, you know, shorter, and I guess, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have to change an awful lot. It could very easily be a Twilight Zone episode, and yeah, you know, there are a couple of movies I've seen that people have said this is essentially a Twilight Zone episode, and a lot of them are longer than they should be, because they kind of have, you know, they have enough material for 40 minutes, and like they're like, well, we gotta reach at least 90, and so it just repeats itself a lot. Crap, what's that movie with I want to say Lena Headey. It's not called Mirrors, because Mirror is that American. I want to say Alexandra Aja directed. I'm afraid I just don't remember what it's called. I'm almost 100% certain. Lena Headey stars in it, and it's not a bad movie, but it's definitely there's a lot of filler. And yeah, this movie, I wouldn't really say there's any filler. There's not really anything that I would remove. Yeah, I'm not sure that I would change an awful lot about this movie in general. You know, they talk about on the commentary track, they didn't have a lot of time, so they made sure to do group shots where everyone is in the shot and everyone can do their lines, you know, instead of a lot of cutting. But I think that really works for the movie. That's something that's not going to work for just any kind of movie, but it really works for this. The excuse me, you know, it's one of countless low budget horror movies that make their low budget work for them instead of against them. It really yeah. I like that the students are from different classes, so these are not just one group of students from the same class. You know, it feels more like they've been chosen intentionally, not just like randomly grand. You know, it's not like I don't know. I don't know how big high school classes are. The I don't know. Let's go with, you know, this is not just like, oh, this is a third of that, you know, that class, or is that called class? I'm not talking about class, like class warfare, that kind of thing. Anyway, I think you know what I'm talking about. And this is something that, you know, we're told the let's see, when the TV comes on, and you know, it's this like let's see, it outlines all the different people, all the different students, why they're there, what was it that they've done to, yeah, and the let's see, yeah, it for each of them, it's grade. Is that what I'm? That's the word I'm looking for. It says what grade they're in, and it's, you know, I didn't sit down and like take notes for it, but they're definitely from at least 3 different ones. So this is like, you know, they more or less know each, you know, they've seen each other outside of class, but it's not just, you know, well, these are the kids who were going to be in biology class anyway. It's just, well, we don't, you know, it's the movie's going to be too long if we have more than 7 of them, so just grab 7 at random and just, no, these are the you know, and in fact, these are the ones that would be like, we're told the urban legend. If you hadn't realized before getting to this point in the video, you probably realized I expect you to know the movie. If you're listening to this, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense if you haven't watched the movie. And yeah, so the urban legend explains, you know, it doesn't say here's, you know, the other kids from that same biology class. No, it said, I want to say her name is Rosa. I'm just gonna go with Rose. Rose, the friends of Rose all took revenge on this one guy, this one teacher. And yeah, you know, she had friends from various grades that just, you know, I mean, it is maybe perhaps a bit like, if these are supposed to be either the same or like alternate universe versions of like the kids who took revenge on the teacher, I guess it's maybe a little bit of a stretch that someone like Augusta would grab a weapon and like start attacking. But I mean, it's not as though she's, yeah, I mean, if she really felt passionately enough about it, maybe. I could see, you know, maybe one of the others gave her like a real pep talk and really got her fired up before. Yeah, I'm sorry. The rest of them, I'm not like Inga's. Inga's already walking around with a weapon. You know, for those who don't know, switchblades are illegal in Denmark. So like, if someone catches her with that, it's literally against the law. You know, it's not just, you know, oh, okay, calm down with that. No, 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 it's illegal. It's against the law to be carrying that. So yeah, the I mean, some of the other students, or maybe also you have to really get them fired up about it. But August is the only one where I'm like, would she really do that? But anyway, but I mean, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, if they are alternate universe versions of them, then maybe they're not quite. See, that's the thing. I've seen some people say, "Oh, this is time distortion," and I completely respect. They, you know, they are entirely entitled to that read of the movie. But what about the urban legend? That's not something you can explain with quote unquote just time distortion. It is not only that the TV is showing things that haven't yet happened. Clearly, there are things going on that go beyond they even say, you know, there never was a teacher here. This whole rape and revenge case never happened here. You know, so the you know, and again, you know, the dead bodies are because of Mickey, but the dead bodies are also in part because of the urban legend. So, you know, in some reality, that urban legend happened, the or the urban legend was made reality because of the desire for Mickey's desire for a story, or the desire for revenge of maybe the, you know, students, you know, the friends of Rose, maybe the teacher, you know, maybe there is some sort of, maybe it somehow hit an alternate universe teacher who didn't actually do anything, who just happened to have a similar name, or, you know, some kind of, and at the end of the day, the, you know, that's, this movie isn't really about that, but it is noteworthy that, you know, one of the main problems, one of the main reasons not to engage in vigilantism is that very frequently you end up, you know, hitting the wrong people. You know, you end up actually, yeah, and that's the, so yeah, there's, you know, let's see, yeah, I think I'm pretty much, so what am I just, I really love the atmospheric shots of the dead animals, and the, like the model of of the human, like the muscles of the face. You know, you have this thing that's like, you know, it doesn't quite have a face. It would be creepy if it had a face too, but no, it's like, you know, this is what the muscles look in this layer and this layer and this layer, and, you know, the let's see, I forget what it's called. It's not stuffed animals, right? That's like kids teddy bears and stuff. No, what's it called? Yeah, I don't remember. Let's see. Just under 11 minutes in, and we're told the urban legend. Right after the storyteller says that, you know, the teacher had bad breath, one of the male students, yeah, I'm just, the male student who doesn't wear a green shirt and who isn't Kenneth. That is a very long name. Is it the one called Rasmus? Or is that the other one? Taus. I want to say that that's Taos. He's, you know, he self-consciously checks to see, like, you know, checks to see if he has bad breath. Like, yeah. Augusta almost never speaks, so every time she does say something, or, you know, I guess two times that she screams, it has a much greater effect. You know, she's so shy, she doesn't say very much, and I do really like that. You know, all of the again, when the TV first comes on, we're told the the reasons they're there. You know, all of them have failed to do something that the school expects them to do. And Augusta, they say she never, like, and she never speaks in class. Basically, she never responds verbally when she has, you know, when she's asked questions by teachers and such. And yeah, it's like, you know, you can totally see she does her homework, she shows up on time, she, you know, but yeah, she doesn't say anything. And the, you know, one of them's like, you know, she has a lot of disagreements with teachers. And yeah, the movie doesn't say the in the book. I guess Dennis wrote the book after he wrote the script. The, you know, he was like approached as like, let's do a movie, and he wrote the script for it, and then later he was asked to also put out a book of that script because he's known for his books. And yeah, so the I guess maybe he felt like it didn't come across enough in the movie, but in the book she actually says, I only interrupt the teachers when I'm right, you know, when they're in the wrong about something. And yeah, I mean, she's again, she seems like someone who follows the rules, but yeah, she also seems like someone who gets, and that's you know, that's the thing about school. If you, even if you're in the right, if you disagree with a teacher, they, you know, you might end up getting punished for it. So anyway, and Inga smiles when the storyteller starts talking about the revenge. I love Inga's close-ups. The yeah, she gets such great close-ups in this movie. You know, I, I guess ultimately, I think almost everyone gets, like, not necessarily everyone gets a close-up, but I think everyone gets at least like a really clear shot of their face, of like, you know, but she really gets some really great close-ups, and they use them really well. I really like the montage of the teacher being like stabbed, hit with heavy objects and such. You know, very effective, creepy. It could very easily come off as almost like an action scene, something which obviously it's not. You know, it is a scene of people, excuse me, killing someone. You know, that he has no chance at all. So it's important that it doesn't come across as like cool or like there's like energy or something. You know, keeping in mind when we see it, we're we may not be 100% on their side, but we're definitely not on his side. You know, this is he got away with rape. This is a monster. You know, so it's not, so yeah, the but it's very, it genuinely is, you know, that's something. There are a lot of movies that show really brutal things being done, and yeah, it's made cool or funny or the like. And here it is just it's genuinely creepy. It's yeah. I like the relationship between Mickey and the female host of the show. She doesn't let him get away with just anything. She seems like the type who would be able to stand working with someone like him, which obviously a lot of people would not. And yeah, the reason that she can stand it at all is that, you know, yeah, there's like the thing, he walks up to her, and you know, he's like, he doesn't say it, but his presence is, here I am. You're lucky. Here I am. You get to spend time with me now. And she's just standing there completely casually, you know, lights the cigarette, and he's like, make sure that the crew's ready in 5 minutes. You know, and he doesn't know the name of one of the crew members, and she's like, I think you mean this guy, you know, and just, and he starts walking off because he's used to just, you know, I'm Mickey Holm. I'll say something, and then I'll walk off, and they'll do it because I'm me. But she's like, wait, why? You know, just explain why. Convince me. And I like the conflict between the boy in the green shirt and Kenneth about whether they try to, you know, just bust open the door. And I honestly, I like that ultimately he's often by saying they're just going to make us replace it. You know, and when you first hear that, it's like, are you for real right now? But then he does continue to say, they're going to let us out eventually. If we break down the door, we're going to look like idiots and they're going to make us pay for it. Just wait it out. You know, and this is also, this is before they know that anything, you know, the audience knows that something's wrong. But ultimately, they think it's a bad joke. They think it's a prank. You know, let's see. Did we all did I forget. I don't remember if that's after the yeah, I think Mickey at that point has gotten the facts that says that someone has died in this school. And I think, you know, that's in the students are told that the first time the TV comes on as well, but they don't really believe it. You know, it's a prank. But him getting that, and we just, yeah, there's a, I don't know, I would say that the audience kind of had, we maybe also because both, you know, there's like, why would, what would the point of a prank on the TV show Final Hour be? What are they gonna get out of that? You know, but they might get a laugh out of pranking this group of students, you know. And both, in both cases, it's, there's been a murder at this school, you know. So yeah, let's see. Great acting by Augusta as she's, you know, she hears the dripping and she looks at the direction that it's coming from. Excuse me. And again, great close-ups, excellent reveal of the corpse. I really like that, you know. Excuse me. First it's like, you know, they're all, what's going on over there, and kind of no one wants to go over there and check, and then Inga's like, you got, you're being ridiculous right now, let me, you know, and she walks up and then she stays there. And that, you know, of course one of the others has, I want to say, is it Kenneth or is it guy in green shirt? I forget, but I want to say Kenneth, but yeah, you know, the yeah, you know, she goes in there and you know, you don't, she doesn't make a sound, and you can't see her moving anymore. So he goes up there and he like grabs the I don't, covering thing, you know, and the curtain, I guess it's called, yeah. And he's like, you know, and then she jumps out and goes boo, and you know, he falls back, and then we hear the reaction before we see what they're reacting to. And he also, he's lying on the ground, he doesn't realize at first what are they screaming at, you know. And then it cuts and we see the corpse. I love the detail that the blood is still running down the corpse. Clearly at least some of these cuts were made not very long ago. You know, this is not, you know, he wasn't hung up here like yesterday and he's still, no. This guy was killed very recently and hung up there. You know, otherwise, like, at some point, his heart's gonna stop beating and pumping blood out. There's not gonna be any more blood to run out, and it's gonna like go. What's it called? Like, it's gonna harden, whatever the word is. You know, and but not this. This guy died very recently, which is again, which brings up, this is not like, you know, I would say it's by the end of the movie, I would say that you are 100% certain that this guy was not killed by any of the students within that classroom. And whether you think it's time distortion or an alternate dimension, clearly, like yeah, let's hypothetically say that Mickey was the one who killed this guy, then why did he get the facts? You know, he found out about it when he got the facts. Clearly, the students didn't do it, and by the end of the movie, you've seen that, you have seen no living person in the entire school other than those 7 students, and I don't know if you want to call him living. If, in any, you see him hanging there, you see him moving, So anyway, yeah, I would say that again, either he was killed in an alternate dimension and somehow, crossed over because Mickey wanted blood. He wanted, bloody flesh, and yeah, sorry, I guess it's the boss who wanted that. But anyway, yeah, because of Mickey's determination to provide the bloody flesh for his, he wants to make him, he wants to make him a vegetarian, and the let's see, yeah, and again, because of, I don't know, if it's the same alternate dimension or it's a different alternate dimension where he comes back to life and tries to get revenge on yeah, actually, I guess, yeah, this dimension brings him back to life to and he goes for revenge on the 7 students who in an alternate dimension killed him. Now, you're not getting in right now, even if you're from CNN. Oh, right, this movie was made back when CNN had credibility. Now it's TYT you can trust. And now that they found the corpse, they struggle to break down the doors, and Augusta can't stop looking at the corpse and ultimately screams in horror. And the conflict between Guy in Green Shirt and Kenneth predictably ends in a physical fight, and Inga resolves it. Now you know why they call her the Nutcracker. And it's completely by coincidence, but Jib Jab just like some hours ago put out a yeah, they put out a video titled "The Butt Cracker." So I mean, yeah, I guess there's worse ways this scene could have gone. Now, I mentioned on the commentary track that the actress playing Inga has a great sharp voice, really cuts right through. And since there's been some romantic tension between Guy in Green Shirt and Redhead, the audience is genuinely surprised when we start hearing that maybe he's the killer. And then we actually see him die. We maybe expected the 2 of them would be the last 2 alive or something. Now, 26.5 minutes in, and the TV in the biology classroom comes on for the 2nd time, and this time it's the first time we see the TV show Final Hour. I also quite like that literally, excuse me, as much as you remember after seeing the movie, you remember the TV coming on, and like, I don't know, I guess, let's go with the narrator. The narrator tells these 7 students, you have to solve the murder case. This is your final exam. And that only actually happens once. You never hear all the times the TV comes on. Actually, yeah, come to think of it, I guess the TV doesn't even come on all that many times. Anyway, the few times the TV comes on, it's only one of them that's that, but yeah, I guess, let's see, the TV comes on for that, then comes on for a Final Hour, and we're told that supposedly Guy in Green Shirt is a killer. In fact, the killer. Excuse me, my back is still causing some issues. Anyway, let's see. It's there at the end when Redhead is told that she's dead, very, very shortly before it happens. Is that it? Or right, and then there's the one with where they're told that Inga is the killer. I also quite like, I both like the element that we're told that's the killer, and the fact that it does only go there for these first couple of, yeah, I guess only the first 2 that disappear and are late, and are then seen, dying or found, yeah, are claimed to be the yeah. Let's see. And there's that Inga looking kind of suspicious, as if she's worried they'll realize she's the co-conspirator thing coming up. And then when she disappears, it seems like maybe she is the, we're told maybe she is the, so that's a very nice kind of, yeah. Now, let's see. Is that final hour guest making his cigarette? People do that. Or is he making a spliff on live television and then smoking it while appearing in an interview? That's wow. I mean, there are places in Denmark where you can. I mean, the law is a little, but wow, that's yeah. I think I had forgotten that detail, but that's funny. That's wow. And the host tries desperately to get something of value out of the guest, and the guest falls off the chair on live television. And the redhead is basically the only one who still has any faith in Guy in Green Shirt, and the others are occupying the same part of the frame. She's off to the left, a real lefty progressive who doesn't believe something bad about another person without proper evidence of it, which doesn't actually work for the kind of Danish, because the yeah, it's reverse with the, yeah, anyway. But yeah, again, yeah, it's shot in a very, like, it doesn't cut to a lot of different angles, and it really works. It feels like she's isolated from the rest of them. I mean, at the start of the movie, it was like they maybe kind of like each other, but now she's the only one who has any faith left in him. And I mean, we are literally talking about 5 people have now turned on him. You know, they 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 don't all believe it equally strongly, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, none of them come to his defense like she does. Like, let's see. The mention on the commentary track, I forget if I noted it there, but right after August suggests that maybe the guy in green shirt was working with someone, it cuts to Inga, and she looks kind of suspicious if she's worried they'll realize she's the co-conspirator. Another one of the symptoms is deja vu. And Guy in green shirt's death is very chilling and memorable, and you really do wonder if they could have saved his life if the window had been left open, instead of that other guy shutting it right when they heard him approach. And just because, keep in mind, it is possible that he was already dead and we just didn't quite see that he had, like, if this is being caused by, but basically his death is the only death that you can't quite, yeah, let's hypothetically say that he did die from falling off the roof, which obviously if he was alive when he fell off, he would have died from falling off. It was very high up. Hypothetically, that's what happened. Then he's actually the only person in the movie who dies. I mean, I guess it's possible that, like, the I'm just gonna call him the zombie. That the zombie was up there and, like, pushed him off or something, but everybody else is, like, stabbed or hung or something. Hanged. Sorry, trap in that one college humor video. And Augusta opens the door, which is now unlocked, and we see a brief POV shot or two, suggesting that whoever the killer is, he's watching them. Excellent choice. And the door slams shut by supernatural means again. And I mean, it is like, why would these guys feel that much more safe outside of the biology classroom than inside of it? The one person has left the room and one person has died. You know, it's not rocket science here. You know, so yeah, the let's see. So yeah, the fact that only two of them leave the room does make sense, and it's Iris and Inga who have a relation. You know, they you know they're friends. So yeah, let me think. The I mean, I guess yeah, it is essentially those are the ones. Yeah, and I think Inga is basically she's the one who's like, look, this is ridiculous. We got to get out of here. You know, and Iris, yeah, you know, at that point she still feels safe around Inga, so she works with. And the others, I mean, maybe if it had stayed open for longer, maybe they would eventually have gotten there. But are they just gonna follow the lead of this chick who runs around with a switchblade and just, you know, it is maybe a little, yeah. And Iris turns her back on Inga for just a few seconds and she's disappeared. I love that they did that in camera. That makes me so happy because, you know, at the end of the day, it's not like, it's not impossible. It's something that there's something like that in a lot of low budget horror movies. You know, the camera will pan and then when it pans back, you know, there's something in shot that wasn't there before, or something that was in shot is not there anymore. And it's not that difficult to make. You know, it's not like, I don't know, single-handedly creating the climax of a summer blockbuster movie with, you know, the CG of it. It's not hugely complicated, but it works because you know, as much as editing tricks the eye into believing that the images we're seeing actually are happening the way we're seeing, you know, it still has a stronger effect when something that was in shot is no longer in shot without a cut. And yeah, I mean, basically, she had to quietly get out of shot. Now, and obviously, you know, and the reason, you know, Iris climbs up and excuse me, she's, you know, she looks out the window, she's, excuse me, yeah, she climbs up, yeah, Inga starts like trying to open a door with the switchblade, which you kind of get the sense that maybe she's done that before. Iris climbs up and she's gonna like wave out the window, get the attention of the police and the TV crew, get them to come over there so that they can help them get out and protect them against the killer who's out there. And when Iris calls out for Inga and turns back, what she wants Inga to see is that there is no one out in the schoolyard. But the audience doesn't learn that just yet. We don't know why she calls out to Inga and then just, yeah. And Mickey, yet again, doesn't get to go close to the schoolyard where the dead people are. It's legitimately pretty funny how hard a time he has getting details and getting close for the entirety of the movie. Again, that's like, he's, you know, he's so certain that he's going to make this amazing episode for the show, and he literally does spend almost the entire movie getting nothing. Like, he, you know, there's that one bit where he briefly gets into the school, and then he, you know, he in fact has to hold the camera himself because the camera guy, you know, that's basically the one bit. You know, other than that, he's like talking to cops who don't want to answer his questions and don't, and he's like getting in the way of like paramedics or whatever it's called, you know. Now in the book, the second guest had dated Inga, and she started stalking him when he tried breaking up after they dated for a week. Other than that, the details are more or less the same. You know, the thing of like, you know, she carries a switchblade, and I think it's in the book as well. The thing about how, what was it? She killed someone. She killed her mother with a pair of scissors, and she went into like mental institutions and such. And you know, where the guy in the green shirt, he had supposedly killed his younger brother. He was 7 and the brother was 5. Yeah. yeah, and Iris over the radio tells the other students the schoolyard is empty. And they're like, we just saw it on TV. There's no. And I like them trying to warn her about Inga, and not very long after saying, maybe Inga isn't who you think she is, and I think Kenneth just goes, she's insane, she's gonna kill you, and just not very long after that, Iris screams and then suddenly goes silent. Excellent idea of using the radio system so we don't see her as she dies. In general, the characters disappear and then later we see their corpse, which is a great way to keep a lot of mystery. It's not something you see in a lot of slasher movies. They tend to want to show as many kills as they can as far as budgets and effects go. Which is, again, I love the slasher genre, so. And the door opens again, and they walk out into the hallways, just under 42 minutes in, and again, this is, if they had just been walking around the school for, like, forever, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's just under half an hour they spend walking around the school, because that could get really, really old, if just forever was spent on, and you could maybe say that 42 minutes in is a bit late to take, really, yeah, most of the characters we don't see outside of the biology classroom until 42 minutes in, but it's not like that time is wasted. There's a lot of build-up, and once that once they start leaving, or yeah, the moment that they start, I gotta stop saying start. The moment that they leave, it gets so much weirder. We've just been told the schoolyard is empty, and actually, yeah, I'll get to the rest of that thought in just a second. Yeah, we have another POV, and the other students see that indeed the schoolyard is completely empty, and this is basically, yeah, it's the second indication that they're very clear indication to the audience and to the surviving main characters that there is something very strange going on, which actually I guess we're 4 left by now. Yeah, because the other 3 have already died. But yeah, indication there's something very strange going on that simply cannot be explained rationally. The first indication was that the TV was not at all plugged in, which, they find out, maybe 2 minutes before seeing that there's nothing out in the schoolyard. So, yeah, up to that point, it hasn't been about what's going on. It's about who's behind it, are those people dangerous, and how do they get out of there safely. And I think it's a good idea to not get too mysterious too soon, because after a while of mystery, if you don't keep it very intense or very surprising, then the audience gets bored and annoyed at not knowing what's going on. But the movie is more than half over at this point. I mean, yeah, I get two-thirds over, basically. The it's, whatever. I don't care. I don't major in math. The I love that line. Yeah. So yeah. At the end of the day, the mystery is not. I worry that what I'm about to say is going to sound negative. I love the mystery of this movie. I really love that. This movie would be so much less of a movie if not for the mystery. But yeah, the mystery, ultimately, it is, there, yeah, how can they see something on TV that isn't there in reality, even though it's live TV? How are let's see, yeah, that's essentially, it's not this, it doesn't keep changing so much throughout the story, which again, I don't think it needs to. But there are mystery stories that start, you know, yeah, start getting incredibly mysterious much earlier, and keep having all these kinds of really mysterious things throughout, and there it's fine to but for this it wouldn't really work. Iris with her face on the hot plate is legitimately incredibly horrifying and a very memorable kill. Seriously, people who say that this movie has no memorable kills do not know what they're talking about. I have. Why do you need to say it has no memorable kills? Why can't you just say it only has a few? There's no way that her face on the hot plate is not a memorable kill. I first watched this when it was fairly let me think. When did I first watched this many years ago, and I've always remembered that kill. There were details that I had forgotten about this movie. I never forgot that. I love that her face is even bubbling. Like it's just, yeah. It really just, yeah. And let's see. I like the tiny silly jump scare that happens completely without any consequence or anything right before they find Iris. It really lowers the audience's guard and makes one of the best scares in the entire movie even better. You know, right before they see Iris there, you have this, like, what's it, like a vacuum cleaner, you know, falling out of, and just, yeah, perfect. Now, let me think. Where was that? And the camera pulls out from the students banging on the door, and we see not only is the schoolyard empty, even outside of the schoolyard, you know, there's one person walking around, he's walking his dog. He can't hear them at all, so just, yeah. And they try the fire alarm, but it doesn't work, which really, I mean, that just said, what kind of, like, this is not, like, they didn't wander into Silent Hill. This is the school they go to, and the fire alarm doesn't work. There's clearly something really strange is going on. You know, that there's no way that this is, like, you know, like, if they thought that the fire alarms didn't work, they wouldn't feel comfortable in that school. So clearly, normally they work, or at least they would expect them to normally work. So, yeah. Is there anything that works in this crappy place? Yes, the hot plate in the teacher's lounge. Or faculty lounge. Talk about Silent Hill. Yeah, I'm just briefly going to say, for people who, I don't even remember what video it was that I talked about that in, but the first Silent Hill, some of the translation from the original, I want to say Japanese, to English, I maybe not people whose first language was English, because when you look at the map of the school, I think it says teacher's room or something, and it's like, I'm pretty sure you mean faculty lounge. I'm pretty sure that's those are the two words you were looking for. But I mean, if you don't know, how would you know? Those are not two words that you use very frequently, but teacher and room, you know. And Miki immediately seizes the opportunity to talk to the cop after the cop walks up, ask him if he has permission to film there, and this guy might actually give him something, because, like, the other one's like, no, I'm not talking to you, go away, you know, you're not allowed to be. But this other guy, he's like, you know, his body language, he goes from, like, are you allowed to be here, because, you know, authority figure, and then Mickey's like, can you answer, and the, you know, the microphone up in his face, and it's just his body language and just the way he's standing completely changes immediately, because it just, yeah, I could imagine Mickey actually might have gotten some information out of that guy. And the redhead goes for the other phone, and Inga is seen hanging there. And Kenneth grabs a chair, runs off, and, you know, basically giving this kind of war cry, and let's see, and the light cuts again. Why is everything so weird? Augusta asks, and there are a couple of options. It's that kind of movie. You know, it's just alternate dimension. Just yeah, but again, I appreciate that they actually have the character. You know, the character is saying what the audience is thinking. And the killer passes the camera very quickly, and it's nothing more than a dark shape. And the 3 remaining students walk down the hall. Even if you don't care about the concepts that are in this, you have to admit, as a slasher, maybe it has a slightly slow start before people start dying. But once it really starts, a lot of people die in a very short space of time. You know, the 7 students. Yeah, I guess the death of the first one happens. No, actually, I think yeah. Once he dies, the other 6 die. You know, not very. Yeah, I mean, I think that was not one of the things they said about like Friday the 13th sequels, that like every 12 minutes someone has to die or something like that. You know, in this movie, you know, yeah, once the people start dying, it yeah, not very much screen time passes without someone dying, which is again one of the appeals of the slasher genre. They find Kenneth. Blink with your eyes if you can hear me. The commentary track says that the actor pointed out, that's kind of a weird line. What else would you blink with? And the remaining guy throws the decapitated head of Kenneth, and poor Augusta catches it and passes. You know, there's some chance they would make a decent decent team of basketball players. But I really like, you know, he's like looking at him like, can you hear me? You're not moving. Blink if you're gonna, and then you know the head, decapitated head falls into his hands, and he just throws it, and it's, you know, and of all people, Augusta catching this decapitated head. Yeah, I've watched this movie a lot of times, and I've always loved Mickey getting on the phone and saying, "Louise, it's me," with that smile, just yeah. And the host of the show starts briefly singing Mickey, you know, the cheerleader song. And the cameraman can't handle the blood, so Mickey has to take over running the camera. You know, there's some chance that this camera guy took a job at the wrong show, considering that this is literally what they do, but it's funny. And Mickey pretends to be really, you know, unsettled at the corpse, and it's very clear that he's just pretending. So yeah, the high school students and the camera crew were either occupying the same space or very nearly occupying the same space, further showing we're dealing with either time distortion or alternate realities. You know, this is it's one of those things where if you don't end up believing in one of those two theories, it's really gonna mess with your head. What is going on? Why can't they see each other? It's right there, you know. And Augusta refuses to go into the basement, and eventually the redhead agrees, convinces Augusta to hide. And they point out on the commentary track, I forget if I noted it where I talk about the commentary track or not, it's not quite clear if Augusta left on her own or if she was found by the killer. This last, you know, yeah, this part very close to the end of the movie, where the redhead crawls through, I don't know what it's called in English, but this basement area, very effective, very creepy. No one likes being in this kind of area, and just, yeah. And we've again moved into the schoolyard, which is where we can get the best overview of what's going on. You just keep telling yourself that's why you're there, buddy. And the redhead sees the zombie, and we get a brief flashback to the dead people. And the redhead realizes she can't leave through the basement and screams at the idiots partying to loud music, who of course can't hear her. And there's the little black cat, which excuse me, which goes over to Mickey, not to, excuse me, long after this. And yeah, Mickey tries to get information from the EMTs and is just told he has to get out of their way. Mickey tries to get the cop in charge. Yeah, to talk to the cop in charge and get information, and he gets nothing. And the redhead returns and realizes Augusta is gone. And we hear Augusta scream off camera. The book spends longer with the redhead getting back out of the basement area, but it's the kind of thing that works better on the page than on the screen, because after a while, I mean, all we're seeing is a person crawling through a basement, and it's, you know, and again, it moves fairly quickly. The movie does, so the book does as well, but yeah, it would be a bad idea to get really bogged down, and you know, but like in the book, there's all this stuff of like, you know, she crawls in and she puts these like near the entrance, she puts like 3 loose bricks on top of each other so that when she finds that, she knows that's where the exit is. And like the let's see, she crawls really far, and like the flashlight ends up dying before she gets all the way back, and she like smacks it, and she takes out the batteries, puts them back in the other order, doesn't work, puts them back in the first order, doesn't work, you know, all this stuff. And yeah, the movie just kind of moves fast. I don't know if it was in the script and they just ended up not filming it, or if it was Dennis who read the what he had from the script, you know, read it back to himself, and like, or someone read it back to him or something, and he was like, we need for the book we need a little more or something. And Augusta is dead, leaving only one student living at 1 hour and 8 minutes in, and the zombie is approaching the redhead. I really love how you can clearly see that several of his joints are just broken, like the wrists and the neck, and just, and even walks kind of slowly towards her because of this. And you know, she hits his head hard, and some blood sprays onto a wall. Grabs at her, but she manages to get past him. Yeah, I really like that now that there's only one person left. The movie does not mess around for 1 second. It just immediately, the zombie is right there. And I mean, really, he basically used Augusta to lure the redhead in. You know, like she's standing there, the hair's standing on it because she's got her hand on the, I don't know if this is how you pronounce it, Vendikoff. I think that's how it's pronounced in the. See, this time I didn't read the book. I heard the audiobook on tape, but I don't remember 100% certain. But yeah, you know, hair standing on edge. She's got the bloody knife sticking out. You know, so yeah, she attracts attention, and the redhead, of course, goes close, and then you hear the moaning, and you see the zombie, and just yeah. And I mean, obviously, you could make the case that if this zombie was the person moving when you see the POV shots earlier in the movie, obviously he's not moving fast enough, smoothly enough, or quietly enough, and in general being quiet enough that he could have been the person who was those POV shots. And yeah, I ultimately just the I don't really have a good answer to that. And the redhead hides, and we're tricked into thinking that the zombie crawls into the basement, but in reality he hid off screen. So when the redhead runs up and, you know, locks the basement door from outside, he jumps out at her, and yeah, and she's trying to smash the glass door with a chair. And she goes back into the biology classroom, and the TV goes from static to final hour. I really like that it's like, it's a fade. Like it doesn't go sharply from, you know, white noise, static, to the show. It kind of fades back in, so it's not that it's like looking for a signal and then, oh, there was the signal. It just kind of, I don't know what words to use, but I think I've made my point. It's nice and creepy, and it's kind of, it feels like that's how it's supposed to be, almost like it's the yeah, like this is the moment that she's supposed to see. It doesn't show it doesn't show final hour before the very moment that's from then on she's supposed to be seeing it, and before that it's just it's static now. And let's see, yeah, reports her death right before it happens, and she freaks out, understandably. But yeah, the black cat that the redhead saw is at Mickey's feet, and he kicks it because that, yeah, wow. But yeah, I really love, right after she's told, you know, the most recent death, in the name. And she's like, no. And he's like, yes. Just almost as if he can hear her and he's asserting reality. Like, she's saying, this isn't real. This is not. And just, and the, and he's there to, I mean, yeah, in that moment he is almost a god. A human denies reality and he reasserts it. His words become reality. The show that he has been putting on the air hasn't happened yet to her. To him it's natural, but to her it's out of this world, kind of. Yeah. And we see the dice rolling, and she's got her back turned to the hanging curtain, and you almost, and it's this beautiful, like, it's not a huge twist that she's got her back to the curtain or that he's back there. It almost just, yeah, it's almost like, of course, how else was it going to end? You realize there was no other way that it was ever going to end. At the start of the movie, the teacher was hanging there, and at the end of the movie, he walks out from there. The door closed behind her. He didn't come through the door. Again, we're dealing with this kind of, like, you could say, oh, he can teleport, but it's just, yeah, I mean, we never did see the dead body be moved from the biology classroom, so maybe the zombie that was killing them was never the one they found hanging there at the start of the movie, and now he comes to life at the end of the movie. Yeah. But yeah, the she's standing there looking at her corpse on TV, and like horrified, and she barely even reacts. He comes out from behind and stabs her. And I really appreciate that we only very, very briefly see his face, because it would not keep being scary for long. And I mean, it's only really a little messed up, the face itself. He's got like a mean look on his face, but other than that, it's basically it's a face. I don't think they like messed it up real bad with makeup or something, but yeah. And Mickey is overjoyed at having gotten 6 on the dice. The redhead is the only of the students that we see killed on screen. She and the teacher are the only 2 characters that we see die on screen rather than seeing the dead body found by another character. Which is, there is some of that in slashers as well, but very frequently we see the death. So, yeah. Maybe I guess I'd have to say about 2/3 of the time we see the death. And the last third, it's just the corpse found. And the students all arrive at the classroom again and have similar dialogue to the first time. And the redhead realizes she has to be the one to check what's behind the hanging cloth. And she starts to pull it aside, and the screen goes black, the audio cuts out, and we hear the title song again, just like at the very start of the movie, and the end credits start running at an hour and 15 minutes in, maybe 15 and a half. I appreciate that the credits run by quite quickly. Obviously, part of the reason is that not that many people worked on this movie. It was a relatively small production. But this is also, actually, I guess, I don't know if was it for a Danish production at the time? Anyway, compared to big American movies, you know. But this is also the kind of thing where you really want to get back out of it right after the movie itself. So some movies, the credits linger, and that can be a really good thing. But this wouldn't be the right movie for that. And some of the last lyrics we hear from the song as the end credits end is, "In a moment, everything will be over." Excuse me. Now. Notes taken before watching. So that was an hour and almost 15 minutes. So I actually managed to talk for about as long as the movie went before the end credits ran. Excuse me. Now, I read this book back when it was, yeah, I would say around the time it came out, or maybe, or at least early 2000s or something, when I watched the movie. And yeah, this most recent time I listened to the book on CD. Yeah, just the last couple of days leading up to, you know, watching the film today and recording this today. And I feel like maybe, I think I like reading Dennis Jurgensen's words more than I like hearing them read aloud. I don't want to say anything negative about the guy reading them aloud. He threw himself into it. And I mean, he did a good job. It's just, it's the kind of thing where I prefer reading, but it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, probably next time I'll see if I can't get to, yeah, it's in part the back issues and my bad wrists. Now, I watched this movie dozens of times in the early 2000s with other fans of Dennis Jurgensen, and I honestly haven't watched it that many times since, but I haven't owned the VHS since then. Now, yes, so Dennis Jurgensen wrote the script for this before writing the book of the same name, or more or less both of them at the same time. But the book was published after the film was released, rather than him writing a book and then later adapting it for a movie. So this was always meant to be the movie that it is. And I think it's one of the best movies that are also books that I've seen and read. In part because of this decision, and it does also mean it's a fairly short book. He's written much, much longer books than this. Now, let's see. Something else I wanted to say there. Anyway. Now, I have also watched Backstabbed, or as it's known in Denmark, Mørkelag. It's not terrible. I'm not going to be that guy to say, oh, it has no memorable kills. It has at least one. I distinctly remember at least one, maybe at least two. Keeping in mind, I'm not sure I watched that movie in 15 years. But it's just not really anything special, which this is special. And when I say special, no, seriously though, it's perfectly fine, but it's not very, it's not much of a follow-up to this one. Spiritual successor, obviously it's not a sequel, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, You needed an excuse for it's a slasher movie like this. You needed an excuse for a bunch of teenagers who knew each other to be in a house and for them to end up getting killed off one by one. I think you could have come up with a more interesting, like, I mean, came out before Halloween Resurrection, so there's that. It has somewhat similar idea. They're they've got like headsets on. They can communicate more or less with each other while they're going around. And there's like in Backstab, the idea is that they're gonna like it's essentially like they're pretending to be the slasher killer. They're supposed to go up and manage to stab the others. And the let's see. So yeah, somewhat similar. Yeah, it's fine. The I think I also remember it just not being quite as effective as this one, which I mean it's made by the same people, the same director and writer. I don't know, but the yeah, no, also the book for that is much better than the movie. Now, let's see. And then you have the third of his of Dennis Jurgensen's books that are also movies, and the third and final of the ones where it's Dennis Jurgensen and director Martin Smith. It's called Restless Souls in English, I think. In Danish. It's okay. I mean, it definitely does have some things going for it. I mean, I'd rather, if I was going to watch one of those two movies again, and there's some chance that I'll watch at least one of them again, I don't know, I would choose Restless Souls over Backstab. I'm sorry. That's, yeah. But, yeah. Let's see. And for there's a fourth movie where Dennis Jurgensen wrote a book, and there's a movie, and it's called Love at First Ticket. I think I'm just going to say I'm not in the intended audience for it, instead of going into a long rant about how much I hate it. And I copied in my written reviews of the movies here, of the three movies that I mentioned, other than this one. And I noted that it got 4 sequels, and asked how did that happen. And I think I've probably done this before, but like yesterday, I think I briefly read the plot outlines for the 4. Actually, one of them was such a nothing that on IMDb it didn't even have a plot outline, which is pretty remarkable because I've seen complete nothings in movies that no one's ever heard of that still at least had a plot outline, but it had them like she's like in a bridal gown on the cover, so I wonder what it's about. But the other 3, the plot outlines make them sound even worse than that first one, which is remarkable. And I haven't watched the US remake, but it looks terrible, so sounds like they nailed it. Now, right. Now, yes, the interview with the guest is clearly under the influence of something is in the book, and it is a good example of the kind of humor Dennis Jurgensen uses a lot. I read on Wikipedia that more than anything in his books, the thing that's in every single one is humor, and I do think maybe it works better in the book, and maybe it's a little too goofy the way it plays in the movie. Actually, come to think of it, I wrote that before rewatching the movie. Honestly, when I watch the movie, I like it fine. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. I think the movie balances the humor. And I would say that some of the stuff, like it'd be like some of the dialogue and some of the high school characters are annoying, but it's a slasher movie, you know. I mean, water is wet, and you know, sunshine is bright. It's just, you know, that's something that comes with the territory. You know, we would have a huge issue if this was like supposed to be some, I don't know, so some completely different kind of thing, you know. But yeah. Now, Dennis Jacobson uses jokes in all the books that I've read of his, and that is most of them. And honestly, I'm not sure I can think of one that I've read that wouldn't make a good either movie or an episode of a TV show or something. One thing I will say, not all of them should be directed by Martin Smith. I'm sorry, but I think based on the 3 movies that he directed that Dennis Jacobson wrote, I really think that this is basically perfect for where his strengths lie. And yeah, and as while I would say that Restless Souls is better than Backstab, I think his style fits better for Backstab than Restless Souls. But yeah. Now, I'm not sure his movies have been received positively enough for a Danish film production to take a chance on stuff. But anyway, back to the point I was making. He uses jokes in all the books that I read, and those most of them. That includes the one he wrote based on this after he wrote the script for this. The ones they put in the movie, in general, maybe don't fit the overall tension of the movie, even though they work in the book. See, again, I'm not sure. Now that I've watched it again, I think it was that I was thinking back on it, and I was like, that doesn't maybe necessarily completely work, but it's like, some of the dialogue, some of the high school characterization and dialogue is, yeah, it's the kind of, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, technically, I mean, I don't know if you want to call the first Halloween a slasher movie. It's more like a proto slasher movie, but you could argue that the high school characters, several of them are kind of like, or at least borderline obnoxious, and their dialogue, like some really meaningless stuff is said, and it does work better there. So yeah, at the end of the day, you know. But I mean, not being able to top John Carpenter, you know, 1970s or 1980s John Carpenter, if you can't top him, you're still, that's not a bad, like, very few can top him. Let's see. Back then, I acknowledge that more recent, as much as it pains me to say, the more recent stuff he's made is not as good. But 1980s John Carpenter was freaking amazing. Now, I love when we see for sure that we are literally dealing with parallel royalties. I've seen others say that it's just they're not occupying the same time, but at least one of the kills sees the dead body right after he's killed. The students, in the students' time, although of course at least one of them is seen dead on TV before they die in the students' time. And the people going to the school and seeing the corpses are clearly not in the same reality as the students being killed. We see this very specifically when they occupy the same geographical space and yet can't directly, other than on TV, see or interact with each other. Now, I've seen others say that it's meaningless. The way I see it, basically, several things cause the events of the movie. The TV producer desperately wants something bloody to happen, and his dice or magic or his dice are magic. Yeah, voice typing. I don't always proofread this stuff. His dice are magic or something, and there's, you know, Yeah, so something bloody and horrifying has to happen. The thing with the teacher raping the girl and getting away with it and then being murdered either actually happened or is an urban legend. If it didn't actually happen, then it's given power because so many believe in the urban legend. Think the original Candyman. There was an original event, but the supernatural powers, you know, maybe just because of the brutality and cruelty of what was, yeah, a mix of the two. And because people kept telling the story and fearing black men, especially around white women, and whether or not it did actually happen, clearly it is something that has a lot of power, and that power has to lead to something. And since eye for an eye leaves the world blind, the revenge taken by killing the teacher leads to the teacher taking revenge. And basically yeah, ghost, real urban legend of the teacher demands revenge, and clearly has some supernatural powers, which is how he's controlling the TV, slamming doors shut alike in the student's parallel dimension. And the reason the things happen to these particular students is probably some kind of thing of various parallel realities resembling each other. This particular group of students most resemble the group of students who killed the teacher, either for real or in the urban legend. I can understand that if some viewers would prefer for the movie to explain these things, but everything that I've just explained is based on beliefs about the supernatural and the like. So it's not like the general viewer can't figure all this out. It's just the movie doesn't directly tell you that these are the things. But I would say that all these things combined do explain the entire thing. And let's see, I don't. Yeah, I think the movie handles it right because they said in the commentary track, a lot of people said they didn't understand it, but then when they actually asked, it was clear they did understand it. They just didn't quite, maybe they didn't like that that was the explanation. Maybe they were uncomfortable because the movie doesn't tell them that that is the explanation. And a lot of horror movies do explain the yeah. This has some incredible tension, suspense, and very memorable kills. Nobody likes being at school after everyone has left. Let's see. Yeah, when I took the note again before watching the movie, I just wrote good song. Now I would say great, borderline excellent song. It's catchy, haunting, not entirely not about what the film is about. There's this sort of like it sounds like it's about oh, summer is ending. It was a great time, but now, but then like I said, it has lines like in a moment everything will be over. So it is like, and just because of the way that it's played and sung, the lines like that, like you would expect a line like that to be really shocking and really grab you, but because of the kind of the delivery is not, she's not saying in a moment everything will be over. So it's, yeah, if you don't listen very closely to the lyrics, it doesn't sound like it's about death and people dying. But then if you do listen very carefully and you, yeah, some of it is about that. Now, I love the intro sequence. Simple, with one eerie object that is found in the setting focused on, like Halloween. There it's a jack-o'-lantern. Here it's a biology classroom skeleton, and like the one that's supposed to be hanging where the teacher's corpse is hanging. And the characters are obnoxious stereotypes with dialogue to match, and sometimes they split up for no good reason, since it's a slasher flick. Excuse me. They do fairly logically reason ways to get out of their situation. Find a path out that isn't blocked or locked, try to call for help, scream for help, etc. I love that the walking corpse there at the end has a broken neck, so he moves partially based on that. A lot of what works, why this is scary, is the atmosphere, the isolation, the inexplicable occurrences. Terrifying ending with the tiny basement thing she falls through. one of my favorite slasher flicks, and I've watched dozens, at least 35. And how I arrived at 35 is by counting all Jason, all Freddy, all Michael Myers, all three Candyman, this and Backstabbed. Yeah. There's probably more. Those were the ones that I especially, off the top of my head. Now, I watched the trailer, which does a great job of setting up the plot and concept and showing how scary it is. It doesn't give away too much. And it's online, so if you somehow made it all the way to this part of this video without having watched the movie, and you still want to watch it, yeah, the trailer for this is online. I forget if it's under the English title or the Danish title, but if you don't, just look this up on, well, yeah, I mean, I'm putting the Danish title in a parenthesis in the title of this video, at the very last two words, yeah. And otherwise, if you go to, if you put Final Hour into IMDb, it has the Danish title written out. I do realize that if you don't speak Danish, then the spelling of those two words are not going to come naturally to you, obviously. Right, now, I watched the commentary track, I guess, the day before yesterday, right? And Dennis Jørgensen and director Martin Smith went to parallel class in the same school, and they recorded the commentary track in 2007. It's really cool that, like, literally a full 12 years after the movie, they got together. So yeah, that's when the DVD is from, I think. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. I can't quite tell from the. I might lift this into frame later. I guess I can. Let's see. I mean, it's supposed to be here somewhere, right? It says that the movie itself is from '95. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to. I also don't quite know why it says 84-minute running time. Wait, is that? I guess that's the movie and the DVD's interview with the two people combined. I guess that's how they got there. Someone misunderstood what yeah. Excuse me. Now, and they talk about the film starting with soft pop music is in contrast to American horror films. And they say that a lot. That a lot of things in the movie are intentionally in contrast to American horror films. And they talk about the film plays with time distortion. It's not linear in time. They took inspiration from Friday the 13th and Halloween, so set at a school, which I think really shows, like, and in a good way. This really feels like, a Danish attempt at a Friday the 13th kind of thing. And they had half a normal budget and half a normal shooting schedule, 18 days. So many parts of the film are done without a lot of cutting. The characters move more than the camera cuts between different angles. It costs time and money to move the camera, setting up lighting in a new manner. They both enjoyed the experience, and the director had mostly made some small-scale horror movies of his own, but the rest of the filming crew had a lot of experience, like professional experience, so the director could focus on just the story. And they wanted the teacher to have, the killer had to have, like, a memorable name, and they say that Gerlof Løvholm is the Danish version of Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. And yeah, there we go. Now, the movie was made in part because Night Watch, or in Danish, Nattevagten, was a big hit in '94. This was from '95. So, yeah, basically, I want to say Rainer Costin, the producer, was like, make me another horror movie. They didn't work on the people making this did not work on. It's been a very long time since I watched that movie, but I think it was good, if I recall. Yeah, I haven't watched the American remake with Ewan McGregor, I want to say now, but yeah, when making this, they didn't want to do Night Watch 2. They wanted to make it so crazy that no one could say it was just what everyone else was doing. So yeah, so they have heads rolling and other grotesque stuff no one else was doing. A head rolls down the stairs. Augusta is found with a knife in her throat. Unusual for a Danish film. Full of kids during the day, a school can be nice, but at night with no one around, it's terrifying. The actor enjoyed playing Mickey Holm, the reporter, and they pose the question, is he the killer? Is Galuf Lohan, who may never have existed? And yeah, here we go. When the film went to theaters, people kept asking for answers. At first, the Martin and Dennis thought that was a problem, but later they realized it was a strength. And when they asked people what they thought that it was, it turned out people had realized, people understood, they just didn't want to accept it. And again, it is a very out there. If you watched, I didn't watch Night Watch right when it came out, but if I had watched that and I was like, I watched that and I was like, here we go, a Danish horror movie that really works. And then I watched this like months later or a year later or something, I would not at all have expected this movie to be the way it is. So that is very, yeah, they really went completely, but yeah. The Dennis Jurgensen exploring really weird ideas, that's not unusual at all. I think I probably, when I watched this movie, I was primed for it to be weird because he's written a bunch of weird, like he wrote a book. I guess it's a novel. It's not the longest novel I've read, but it's novel length. It takes some inspiration from Philip K. Dick, not in a bad way, and yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but basically, it's about a boy. I don't know, maybe a 12-year-old who, he has a relative, like his circumstances, his overall environment seems normal, but the boy is convinced that he's not a human, but a robot who looks like a human. That's all I'm gonna say, and that's not a spoiler. That's the concept of you're told this very early in the book. So this is not, I mean, yeah, yes. Let me just. Dennis Jurgensen has written far far weirder stuff than this movie. He wrote a book wherein fairy tales are, I don't know how much I want to give away from it, but basically, like, I'm not gonna just. He's written weirder stuff, so this is not, this was as weird as they could go with 18 days and half a normal film budget, but I've seen, like, they're making one of his more fantastical ones, in slightly more fantastical ones, into a movie. And first I was like, Danish film making it, and then I saw it was animation, and I was like, oh, they can go as crazy as they want because it's yeah. I think that's very realistic. I hope they make more. I hope they turn more of his books into animated movies because it can really work. I mean, I don't know if he's still very popular because as far as I can tell, he hasn't written a lot recently. Where like in the 90s and early 2000s, I think he was very, very, he put out a lot. Now, so yeah, back to the commentary track. The quote-unquote film studio was in the gymnasium in the school, and the cameras pointed at the host weren't plugged in to anything. So yeah, I quite, you can't tell, but yeah, it's the yeah, very, very nicely done. And they talk about humor and horror going hand in hand, keep it from becoming oppressive. Brian and Benny were actually among the fans of the TV show, like in the book, and they were standing there eating burgers, and they just felt it became too comical. I can see that, but it's too bad they didn't put that as like deleted scene on the DVD. But I guess, I mean, by 2007, yeah, that's the stuff that didn't make it into the movie probably just isn't, like, it's probably been thrown out by now, or by 2007 anyway. But yeah, I love the book that collects a series of short stories that Brian and Benny are in, where each story has them face some horror, fantasy, sci-fi thing. One of them's H.P. Lovecraft, for example. Now, yeah, so they intentionally show the bodies being found instead of killings. And the comedic interview does not further the plot. It's a breather to keep them from becoming too intense too soon. The interview guest actor would improvise lines, and no two takes were the same. After the interview, the students are all filmed in a single group shot with a couple of, what's that saying? Yeah, some close-ups, but most of them don't get close-ups. Most of them are only filmed in the group shot, which has 6 characters. The actor for the character who dies first said that he wishes he was in the movie more, and he asked if he could play another character, and at first they were like, why? It's a good character, and he was like, I die first, I'm barely in the movie. And they point out you have to isolate characters for the slasher to pick them off one by one. They talk about the sound effects and music important for horror movies. They do great on that. They really, I could totally imagine this movie would be a tenth of what it was if you took away the sound effects and music. Maybe not quite that. Half of what it was. If you took away the way it, the way it's filmed and edited as well, then it would be a tenth. And instead of loud American music, like in American horror movies, they chose to have very little noise. It took 3 hours to do the makeup for Iris on the hot plate, and first take, like the heat, the hot plate was too red. It didn't look good, so they had to do it over. Yeah. And they point out how Hitchcock, the director's cameo, is, and apparently he didn't like doing it, and he refused to do it again. But yeah, excuse me, I appreciate that, like, not just a director's cameo, but a dog walking cameo. That, like, yeah, that's Hitchcock right there. And they describe in detail how they did the hot plate. If you like this movie, I recommend, this is my library's copy of the movie that has the commentary track and interview on the DVD, and yeah, it's great. It's definitely well worth re-watch. And the window that the guy hits with the chair is the only bit of plexiglass, the only one that couldn't be smashed. They literally say if he had hit the window right next to it, he would have smashed it. But when you watch the movie and you don't know that, it's effective. It really is. Like, you literally do only need to show, the audience isn't like, if it was a video game, you'd see if you couldn't attack the other windows. But when you watch the movie, you're like, I guess they can't get out from there. They play some volleyball with Kenneth's head. Apparently, the cut off head was with them when they did like marketing. Now, yeah, like Augusta either has left or has been taken away. It's not clear, but she's not. She's clearly not there anymore. Yeah, that was the actor enjoyed playing a zombie. He's used to much more serious stuff. He's from theater. And they did not actually hurt the cat. It's just a sound effect. And the beautiful music is in contrast to the murder that's about to happen. We have flashback to the dice. It's unusual for the heroine to die in one of these movies. And see, that's something I really appreciate. A lot of slasher movies, you end with the final girl, you know, the trope. She made it all the way to the end. And yeah, like right up until her death, you almost do. Like she finds the final body, and the killer approaches her, and she gets past the killer. You know, she hits him with something, and she gets away. And then he catches up to her. She hits him with something. She gets away. You really expect this is when it happens. You know, she's gonna, excuse me, she's gonna somehow manage to completely, like, either maybe she won't like kill him or even seem to kill him, but she'll at least get away, and there'll be some kind of closing moment. But no, she ends up, she ends up trapped where she was trapped at the start of the movie, and she's killed. And the so-called journalist got his 6 on the dice and looks like the devil. He really did a great job on that. The let's see. Okay. The actor really, yeah, what was imagined now becomes reality. We won't say what's behind the curtain, the corpse, nothing, etc. That's the start of a new story. And I just a couple of days ago watched the interview. Yeah, 6.5 minutes. And the interview was also done in 2007. Night Watch led the way. 4.5 million Danish crowns budget, so less than $1 million. And the director had experience making cheap horror, so to him it didn't seem small necessarily. They did some brainstorming before they settled on exactly what the concept was going to be. And Dennis Jürgensen was there during the shooting, since he and the director were friends, which can be a bad idea, but it went well. You know, a lot of, yeah, they talk about that a lot of times. You know, you don't want the scriptwriter there during shooting, because he's gonna criticize every single time they change something. He's gonna be like, no, you're doing it wrong. And the biology classroom was small and had to fit a film crew. And the reason that they were able to film at this school was that there was fungus, and they couldn't have students there for a while, so it was empty. And the fungus actually did cause allergic reactions during filming, and they kept the windows closed since that's in the script. And they said it was very good to get fresh air. And it's, yeah, wow. But that's how you do it. You know, some of the Terminator was filmed while there was like spraying pesticides, some kind of, yeah. That's the fog you see in some parts of the movie. So yeah. Now, and the DVD comes with a trailer, and it's the same one as online. I read the lyrics to the theme song, didn't have any comments. Listened to the theme song, didn't have comments. And yeah, so the book is 108 pages, and the book on CD is 216 minutes. So that's remarkably, like, literally, that's 2 minutes per page. So that's, yeah. Now, that brings us to the final section. Where did the pencil go? There it is. IMDb, Wikipedia, and critics' sites. So, let's see. I guess I'm gonna... Excuse me. When I read the book, I liked that there at the end, the zombie talks. And the first thing he says is, he's indicating, or the redhead has just seen Augusta's corpse, and the first thing he says is, "Makes your hair stand on end, doesn't it?" Hårreisende, ikke sant? I think was the exact words in Danish. So I love it in the book, but I'm really glad he doesn't do it in the movie. I really don't think that would have worked, and he's absolutely terrifying the way they did him. And yeah, I am going through my written review from years ago. I don't remember exactly when I wrote this. Yeah. Oh. I wrote this in 2008. So one thing, Augusta, I'm just gonna read. She looked far more like a mental patient than what I pictured from a description by Dennis, and I didn't always buy her as scared of everything. Meanwhile, some of the eye stuff, great. And yeah, Thomas Bo Larsen plays the guest on the show. And what I wrote is, he's fine, he's just, well, twice as old as his character seems to be supposed to be. And it is a little weird, because he's supposed to be like the age of the high school student. And I mean, yeah, he's older than that. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, right. When I wrote the review, I was also based on the DVD, the commentary track, and the interview. So yeah. Now I wanted to get, I try to get as many reviews as I can for these, except for the ones where there are crazy many reviews, like very recent movies and such. I had trouble finding reviews for this one, but I did find some. So let's see. And yeah, from IMDb, some students get locked up in their school and stalked by a killer, but as time goes by, it turns out there's more to this than it seems. And the tagline is, were they the killer's victims or the victim's killers? Or in Danish, var de morderens offer eller offerets mordere? I'm sorry, mordere. Some people don't like my pronunciation of that word. And those people can suck it. Let's see. Right, sorry, fungus. It says here mold infection. I think that, yeah, I'm not used to talking about that kind of thing in English. And let's see. Literally everyone who's ever been in school has had at least one teacher that they just felt was off. There was something wrong with that teacher. Now, let's see. Oh, right. But why is everything so weird is actually in the memorable quotes section. And Right. So I had to go to the Danish Wikipedia to find anything on this, but some, you know, there are some unsung heroes here who went to the trouble of putting a lot of, like, there are a bunch of links, and there's not a ton of detail on the Wikipedia page, but there are a lot of links. I think, yeah, it says the yeah, it doesn't link them to the character name, but it has Wikipedia links to all the individual actors. Let's see. And I followed a lot of those links, and that's where I found the various reviews and additional details. Let's see. Oh, that's right. The basement part was actually, they had to make that in the gymnasium. Now, let's see. And let's see. There are, some of the people who review it really love it, and some really hate it. Let's see. And yeah, I basically, let's see, I don't have a lot to. And some people discuss what it's about, and some of them say they didn't understand the whole, how can they see themselves dead on TV? And oh right, there's a line the in the book. I think it's Inga, who I don't remember which of the guys she's talking to, but really take your pick. And she's like, I don't remember. I'm sorry, I just don't remember the context, but something like, I hope you have an aneurysm. Then you'd have two. They could play together. Now let's see. And for some reason, one of the reviews under this is someone asking for, like, a movie that's similar to The Punisher. I literally have. Oh right, and then they're like, is Final Hour a movie like The Punisher? I mean, I guess I could see. Right, and then there's this one great film, but a psycho. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with imitation. I'm translating Danish to English here. I'm not going to claim that this movie is 100% original, but it's hardly a Psycho imitation. It's far more similar to Friday the 13th or Scream, Yeah, something like Scream, where you have kind of this commenting on the violence and the media kind of thing, But saying it's similar to Psycho, have you not watched a single actual slasher movie in your life? Like, Psycho, that was like the slasher movie, the way is, and the way it has been since, yeah, basically the year 1980, owes a lot to Psycho, but Psycho is not a slasher movie, not even remotely. And let's see. Yeah, and this guy says he enjoyed the movie, and it's certainly a lot better than how terrible the terrible Backstabbed. And yeah, and this one guy says psychological horror. It really works. And let's see. I guess that's more. Yeah, I'm just gonna this one review. Whatever, dude. Oh, there we go. And this place also says it's 83 minutes. I forget, does my VHS copy also say? Yeah, 83 minutes. Does it maybe have like a trailer show? Yeah, I'm just briefly gonna. The reason that I watched this off of DVD, even though I have the VHS, you might think that it's because I didn't want to start watching a VHS that might not work all the way, but the way I have set up my computer that I watch DVDs on and my TV that is hooked up to a VCR. Yeah, I can't watch stuff on the TV without sitting in a chair that hurts my back. And you know, when I watch the stuff on DVD, I can sit in this couch like right now, which doesn't hurt, thankfully. Now, right, so there's this one of the pages that the Wikipedia links to has this list of movies that like basically it's a similar movies. If you like this, you might also like kind of thing. And I limited this to just the ones I've actually watched. It's meaningless for me to say yeah. Some people have compared it to Battle Royale. I seriously don't see it. I mean, there are teenagers dying in both. I get, high school students dying in both. But Friday the 13th one, the yeah is compared. Now I wouldn't quite call this a ripoff of that. It's more that the original Friday the 13th was the first real slasher movie, and this is a slasher movie. They don't really. Yeah, it's just that they're both about a bunch of. Are they even high school students? Aren't they like college aged in the first Friday the 13th? Anyway, yeah, teenagers that are in a place, and someone starts killing them off one by one. It's yeah, that movie set up how slasher movies work, and this is a slasher movie. It's not really a ripoff or the like. And the first Halloween isn't quite a slasher movie. I think calling it a proto-slasher movie makes a lot of sense, but I can't say why it's not a slasher movie without spoiling that movie, so no. Now, let's see. Right, and yeah, it's compared to Psycho, although it's the 1998 version, which I haven't watched, and I probably never will watch. But yeah, it's really what I could imagine that more people know that the movie Psycho exists than people who know that the movie Friday the 13th is, or at least that have watched the movie Psycho. And I can understand that. I don't know that I would. Yeah, slashers get such a bad rap. It's really not. Anyway, no, and someone compared it to American Psycho. I mean, both have murders happening in the school environment. I guess that's what. But it's also compared to Scream 1, which, the characters sort of comment on the violence, and the movie on the whole also comments on slasher movies and violence in media. So, yeah, I would say it's definitely taken some. Wait a second. Sorry, that's not right, because this movie predates the first Scream. Sorry. This movie is from 1995, and the first Scream movie is from 1996. Yeah. I doubt that this movie did help inspire Scream. Again, I don't even know if there's like a dubbed version. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this one doesn't even have subtitles, not even in Danish. Yeah, it doesn't have a dub. I mean, I don't even know if it's something that would. I don't know if American audiences would like this movie, though. There are obviously some things that definitely would, but I mean, for sure, one thing is the double meaning of the title really needs, yeah. Excuse me. And yeah, right. Real quick, yeah, there's a reviewer that comments on that, oh, there's not a lot of like blood and gore and such, but she points out, some of the stuff that is there is really great, and she also highlights, Iris's body, and yeah, it says, it only has the one setting of the high school. I mean, plenty of slasher movies only have one location. I mean, I suppose you could say there may be more variety to the camps in the Friday the 13th movies, but a bunch of it is just set in, a summer camp. Each movie has a summer camp that it's set in. It's not necessarily the same summer camp as the ones before, but it genuinely is. Oops, sorry about bouncing the camera. Yeah, but the reviewer does go on to say that it does work. The students are running around the hallways, up and down stairs, through basements, but they're not getting anywhere, and it creates a nice claustrophobic feeling. Freedom is right outside the door, but they can't get out there. I think the whole. There are a lot of slasher movies where it's not really that the characters are trapped as such. It's just that for most of the movie, every time someone realizes that there's a killer, they're killed right after. So it's just, oh, here's the last, here's the last 20 minutes of the movie. Here's a character who does know that there's a killer, but everywhere they go, they just find dead bodies, and the killer knows exactly where they are, so it's difficult for them to get out. But there are not that many slashers where you're trapped and stuck where you are. There are horror movies that do that, but I mean slasher movies. I mean with the let's see, yeah, with Freddy, it's obviously the powers that make him. That's how do you get away from someone that comes for you in your sleep? Candyman, you also can't really geographically get away from him because it's not really about where he is. He can kind of get in where he needs to. But yeah, it's let's see. I guess there probably are slasher movies others than this slasher movies where they are just straight up trapped, like they can't get out. But I can't right now come think of one. It tends to be that they're in one location maybe, but they're not stuck there. It's just they're a lot of the time they're plenty happy to be there. In fact, it's Friday the 13th movies. It's that they're working there or they're going to that camp or something. Oh, sorry. There's nope, never mind. That was the thing I just read. And let's see. And yeah, say more people discussing what really happened. And yeah, this one guy watched and he said, I couldn't sleep just from the sound that the killer made, which was really scary. And yeah, I absolutely agree. The people who really, yeah, really can't stand it. I don't know. I mean, it almost seems like they don't like slasher movies, and or that they didn't like the parallel universe element, which is just like you're entitled to your opinion, but you and I are not gonna be able to have a conversation. Yeah, you're telling me that up is down and right is left. You're not making any sense, dude. Now let's see. And the let's see. Yeah, I mean, you're entitled to not like slasher movies, but you can't be surprised when I mean, I don't like well, yeah, what group should I piss off? No, just there are genres that I don't like. I I don't make a big deal out of not liking. Like I said, the Love at the First Hiccup is not the kind of movie that I mean, hypothetically, let's say it was way better that it was objectively much better than how objectively terrible it is. Would I like it? Probably not really. It just I don't I don't understand why you want to make a big deal out of not liking a thing if that's just not the kind of thing you like in general. Why not just talk about what it actually does? Because if you just talk about what it actually does, I for example think I relatively recently rewatched all three Candyman movies, and obviously 2 and 3 are nowhere near as good as one, but when really the second one has a lot going for it. It's just with the third one they really didn't try at all. it's clear that they don't even really understand how it's supposed to work. And yeah, just the when you're reviewing Candyman 3, then it doesn't matter. Then it doesn't necessarily matter that much if you in general like slashers or the Candyman movies or the like. It makes sense to tear that movie apart because it's a bad movie. But this is not a bad movie. It's just, yeah. I anyway. Yeah, here was a guy that's, yeah, some trivia. Martin Schmidt asked John Carpenter, and then this guy goes on to say, you probably know him from The Thing. Well, I don't know why you point to The Thing when his Halloween is a much more similar movie to this than The Thing, but whatever. Yeah, he asked him, and he got a lot of, you know, yeah, he was given a lot of tips on how to approach, how to film different scenes in different ways to, let's see, to give the movie interesting dynamic and such. And I mean, I only have this one guy's word for that, but honestly, I could imagine, because that's what I hear when people like try to talk to John Carpenter. John Carpenter, like in 2002, they made a video game sequel to his movie The Thing, and they liked working with him so much that they made him a character in the game, which he voices himself. That's how much they loved working together. And he even came out and said, this is the sequel to my movie, this is in canon. And then you played and you're like, John, I love you, but how is this a sequel? But he loves it. And like, he did great work on the third Fear game, and the let's see, yeah, they approached him for, when they made Halloween 2018. They, and it wasn't like, he didn't write the movie, he didn't direct anything, but they asked him, I mean, I think they wanted his blessing, and they asked him to work on a new theme for the movie. And again, he was like, clearly they understand the original, and I'm really happy that my movie still, people still love my movie, and it's like, this is so awesome. And it's like his, I think he and his son helped do the new score, and it was like, and apparently, I just recently rewatched the movie, and the DVD also had a bunch of special features. And in one, they talk about, I had heard this, but I had forgotten. John Carpenter learned how to play I'm sorry, I don't know the terms, but like at a certain speed or something from his father, and that's what he based the original Halloween theme on. So, excuse me, it's gone from generation to generation, and just, yeah, I could totally imagine that John Carpenter, when being called up by this no name from Denmark, would be like, oh yeah, here's how you should help it. Just, yeah, he seems like a really, like, when you, yeah, but yeah, and I wrote, that is absolutely awesome. Now let's see. And yeah, and there's the POV shot is also called out. Let's see. Okay, so we're on page 33, 34 of 47, and we have reached the IMDb reviews. Now, let's see. Yeah, here's the guy who says, I don't understand the negative criticism dismissing the film as a standard or routine slasher, because I have never seen a film like Sidste. And yeah, it has a fundamental difference towards other films, and the closest thing I can compare it to is the odd, mysterious tone of Lucio Fulci's masterpiece, The Beyond. I'm afraid I haven't watched that movie. I don't watch a lot of Italian horror. It's just not really my thing. I haven't absolutely know the you know I've seen them do some incredible work. It's ultimately just not really my kind of thing. Let's see. Let me think. Yeah, he says, yes, except from some of the main characters carrying out equally dialogues while getting killed off one by one again. I have a hard time making sense out of the critics missing the weirdness of the film, because it's in the fundamental weirdness that Sistine collects its points. The film does start out as a standard piece, but pretty soon you realize we have no idea what's going on, as if in an episode of The Twilight Zone, the characters find themselves stuck in a parallel dimension. Or is it the sadistic, bloodthirsty TV show that is a demonizing illusion? Just how much power is contained within the dice of the very satanic Mickey Holm? Or is it just a ghost story? Or are the kids going mad? We don't know. All we can do is ask ourselves the same thing as the film's Augusta. Why is everything so strange? And I agree 100%. Now, let's see. Let's see. Right, and yeah, Schmidt and Jurgensen should be given some credit, though, since they were two Danes trying to wake the slasher genre to life a year before Wes Craven actually did it with the first Scream, and that's very true. Yeah, great point. It really, I, it's pretty wild, because by 1995, you really did not see slasher movies. I don't remember exactly when they kind of stopped, but by the mid 90s, it was not a it was nothing like it was in the 80s. Now let's see. I guess right. Here's from another review. The coolest thing with this movie is the atmosphere. It's claustrophobic, intense, and pretty creepy. It is not a typical slasher. There are elements here and there here that are pretty bizarre. I wouldn't say supernatural, but certainly strange. This was also a big reason why I find it so scary when I was little. The mystery of it. Well put. And let's see. Yeah, here's my own, which I'm just going to scroll past. I already read aloud what I was going to read aloud earlier in this video. Let's see. And yeah, so I'm just going to read briefly aloud from this about the review. It is the movie is even political in many ways and prefigures both Saw and uncensored news. That is very true. It really is a the yeah. Let's see. Hmm. Anyway, let's see. If there's anything else. I just realized this is dead air. I hope not too much dead air, and I'm gonna try. Yeah, I'm also almost entirely through the. Oh, right, this is the. Yeah, I'm past all the reviews, and this. Oh, sorry about the camera. Yeah, I think it's. There we go. Let me just real quick check how centered. Yeah, that's not too bad. So the let's see. Yeah, I'm just gonna. This is. I want to say this is his Dennis Jorgensen's Danish Wikipedia page. There you go. He was born 3rd February 1961. He's one of Denmark's most popular authors for children's books and books for. Yeah, I don't know how to. I'm translating directly here for children and for youths. And let's see, they yeah, from 9 out of 10 12 to 18-year-olds knew who he was, and his fan club has almost 1,000 members. Let's see. And he has written some books that should be in the adult section in his own words. And yeah, he's written most genres, but prefers fantasy, science fiction, and horror, or a mix of the three. But he has written crime novels, I don't know, love story, I don't know, and what's that? Real? Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, this is what it says. His humor, something he really focuses on, and one of his idols, Stephen King, has once said that his greatest wish would be to hear that one of his readers died from, was scared to death reading one of his books. Dennis Jurgensen's greatest wish, according to himself, would be if one of his books could make someone laugh so loudly in a bus that everybody else turned around to look at them. Yeah. And let's see. Oh, that's right. His first book was actually Love at First Pickup. As far as I know, he didn't have anything to do with writing the movie sequels. He wrote the book that they turned into the first movie, but he didn't. Yeah, I actually don't know if he has an opinion on the other movies. I mean, I will say, from what I recall, the movie is fairly close to the book. I would say the book is better, but yeah, yeah. Through 30 years, he's put out more than 50. And yeah, he wrote script for 4 movies, which I've talked about. And he wrote short stories in multiple genres, and he wrote articles on films. So let me see. Here's a list of his books, and I'm not gonna read aloud every single one, but just let's see. Yeah, I think I've read. Yeah, I think only really the very most recent of his or yeah. So let's see. The, yeah, he wrote one about like a chess master, and he wrote a homage to crap, what's his name? The guy with black cats and the Telltale Heart, Edgar Allan Poe, which is both funny and has some really chilling moments. Let's see. Right, he did write a zombie. It's been a long time since I read it, but from what I recall, it's essentially like a. It feels like it could be part of George Romero's zombie universe, you know. And he wrote a short story collection which is just called Maybe Moski, which is this series of science. It's these science fiction stories set in different universes. You know, they don't connect, and they're really really compelling. Just yeah, he wrote a like a murder mystery in a world populated by birds, like and it's like, let's see, in Danish, ikke en fire bedre, I guess. Ah, crap. I don't know how I would translate that to English, but I mean, I guess. It's, no, I just, okay, let me think. It's basically like, yeah, I mean, it's from '95, and it's 4 words. I guess it's a play on the like there's that term, not no better than, or not a smidgen better than, and then it used the word feather, not a feather better than. Yeah, yeah, that's literally not a feather better. If you translate those words directly to Danish, that's the title. And yeah, what's that thing about? Yeah, the one with the fairy tales. It's called Et grimt eventyr, which translates directly to an ugly adventure, but it uses the Brothers Grimm. In Danish, the word ugly is, yeah, it's spelled, excuse me, exactly like the word Grimm, not the name Grimm, but the word Grimm. So yeah, he literally put, a, a grim adventure with the, yeah. And let's see. Right. So yeah, I guess I am gonna, yeah. My personal favorite is the black horror sort of series, which, yeah, loosely connected series without direct connection. The overall, yeah, the main thing is the presence of something dark and scary which stalks, threatens, and kills the main characters and supporting characters of the books. There's something inexplicable out there, and the 4 books in the series are a good guess of what waits in the shadows. And let's see, I read the first 3. I don't think I read the 4th one, but I think those might be my favorite of his. And it's The Thing in the Cell, The Monster in the Basement. The Monster in the Basement might be my absolute favorite of his, and I would love. I mean, I don't know that it's long enough for a movie, but maybe like, see, that's, why does it have to, why can't we just make, like, it's kind of stupid that we can't just make something that's not feature film length. But I guess it would have to be like, if I don't know if there's a Danish like horror anthology series, but I would love an adaptation of that. And The Monster in the Well, which is also great. Yeah, and then there's one called The Demon. Oh wait, sorry, I did read that one. Yeah, that might have been one of the last of the ones that I read. Let's see. And right, and yeah, he wrote some Cthulhu mythology books. Let's see. Yeah, the Hanged Men's House. Ah, the the Vomiter, I guess. I don't know how to translate that directly. Let's see. I kind of love both of those books, but the second book does something really early on that kind of frustrated me. But I do love both of those books. And, huh. Yeah, I think, yeah, Miranda, Alex, and Gabrielle. Yeah, I read those as well. And there's a series called Ghost Hotline with 4 kids who they try to, let's see, yeah, they're basically solving supernatural mysteries, and one of them is certain that there's a rational explanation to every of the cases, and the other 3 are more open to alternative explanations. And yeah, and they're also easy to find because each book starts with the case of, and then yeah, I guess I'll say, okay. The Japanese Killer Curtains is the first one. The Bloody Vampire Trick is the second. The Owl Boy's Cut Off Claw. The Galloping Painting, and The Burning Clown. And then, yeah, then he did like a crime series, Volantril. Yeah, those are, I haven't read any of those, I don't think. The first one is from 2014. By then I was no longer reading Dennis Jurgensen, which I've, I'll probably go back to reading him. I really enjoyed his stuff. Yeah. And that is the end of my notes, and I have talked for 2 hours and almost 43 minutes, so more than twice as long as the movie went. So yeah, let me just briefly see if I can get a good shot. This is, I guess, yeah, I guess I'll hold up for now, at least the VHS, because I think there's a better chance that I'll catch the, yeah, you can kind of see, like, there's the eye of like one of the good guys, and then there's this really threatening looking eye of the killer. But fine, let's see. Yeah, it's difficult to cast a lot. Yeah, something like that. It's yeah. I really love it. I'm really glad I watched it again. I honestly, I have to admit, I was kind of thinking like, well, I really loved it back then. I'll try not to be too hard on it this time. But it works. It absolutely works. This is not nostalgia. If I watched this for the first time today, I would love it as well. It really is. I mean, you know what? If you don't like Dennis Jurgensen and you don't the I mean, people who watched it expecting Night Watch, I don't know. I don't think being disappointed, I don't think that's, yeah. But anyway, it's not Night Watch. It's very different from Night Watch. I don't know that I would say that Night Watch is necessarily that much better of a movie, but it does get credit where it's due. It's a Danish horror movie that works. And before Night Watch, we hadn't really done a horror movie that really worked. So that's, but to say that this is not as good as that, I really feel like that's just, it's a slasher movie, and it's written by someone who, I mean, yeah, the main appeal of his stuff is the kind of, youth, and I wouldn't say this is, children's book Danish Jurgensen, but yeah, youth you know, youth story kind of, yeah. And I mean, yeah, and yeah, maybe some people thought that it was a bad thing that it's such a weird movie, but I really don't. Like, I could understand if the clues were not in the movie. Like, let's hypothetically say that the urban legend isn't, you know, told to the audience and the characters in the movie. Let's say that we didn't see Mickey Holm at the very start and at the very end of the movie. I guess I could understand then why you would have a problem with it, but the answers to the movie's questions, or at least answers that are close enough, that give closure without taking the fun of the mystery, the unknowable away, are there in the movie, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you can give slasher movies a chance and the sort of weirdness in a horror movie doesn't put you off, yeah, I really don't see why you wouldn't like this movie. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching, as I enjoyed watching and recording, and I'll catch you next time.